All right, how's that sound? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? All right, there's no sound. Give me a second. So, was it T-Mobile or was it Sprint?
It might have been Sprint.
Sprint. I think so too. What's going on, party people? Okay, so I got the green heart. Okay, we got green hearts. Okay, that's what it was. You know what? We don't need audio.
Yeah, no, for this,
We don't need
we're
that.
good.
Yeah, we don't need it as long as y'all can hear it. That's all that matters.
Yeah, that's the way it'll work.
We can hear each other. Oh my gosh, man.
It's a lot more personal, you know, without the echo. Green hearts if you can hear us very clearly without an echo.
Green hearts if you want to hear.
Or thumbs up. The thumbs up are good too.
I like thumbs up. I like thumbs up. I like green hearts. Okay, so that's what it was. Why were we playing the audio though?
I have no clue. Yeah.
Why were we doing that?
That was probably causing the echo. Actually, now
we're actually smarter than this.
I face a little bit of technical issues with the court sometimes, so you know I've been there. You know, and the court will tell you too. Like if you ever mess up with like some of the echoing issues, they'll be like, "Hey, turn off your mic" or something like that, or they'll direct you, or like get off the phone. You know, because some people will be on their phone and through the camera, and so if they're on the phone and you're trying to do like a court hearing live through Zoom, yeah, it's not gonna work.
I got you. All right, well we're here. We're in the building. All right, this is our first ever field trip. We're gonna call it field trip.
Yeah, no, very nice field trip.
Very nice field trip. Came behind that. Hung out with Nick out here in San Diego. Let me tell you something. Nick is a fantastic host. So y'all, if you come out here, check out Nick. Well, don't check out Nick from the professional level. Though. Don't need Nick from the professional level. Check him out on his fantasy football tirades. Oh my God, Nick has fooled your boy on fantasy football.
Although I finished last this season, so maybe I don't have much to like write home about.
Let me tell you, I finished. Didn't even start. So let me tell you that. That's how I finished. But no, for real. Nick has been fun, man. Thanks so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Having me out here. All right, so I wanted to come out here, connect with Nick. All right, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. Lady Dear Woke Christians at a conference. So I just came out here to hang out. So I know you guys were thinking it's like something real tantamount, but no, just my wife's at a conference. So I said I'd come bring Chief Detective second. So we're here now. But I want to hang out with Nick, hear a little bit more about Nick's story, all that kind of good jazz. I know y'all want to know. So save all those questions for later. No, we're not going to talk about that. Stop it. We're not going to talk about it. You know what they want to talk about, or who they want to talk about. Don't even mention it. Don't even mention it. Like,
yeah, there's enough.
What is it? Voldemort. She's like Voldemort. Don't even mention it. He who shall not be named. Okay, but anyway, Nick is out here in sunny San Diego, California. It's actually a very nice place. I have to admit. I was pleasantly surprised with Southern California. It's super easy to get around. Your transit system is pretty legit.
Yeah.
It's pretty legit. Where you live, I know where Nick lives. By the way, I'm not going to be giving it out to the single ladies, so don't be sending me any messages at jwit@jwit.com. Where does Nick live? I'm not going to give it to you. For small nominal fees. Um, but no, where you live, I mean, it's beautiful by the harbor. You get all this kind of good action. I think I saw the SS Mirtha, which is the ship that recovered the Artemis capsule. I think that was in the port.
You think you saw that?
I'm going to tell the story that it was, even though, like this morning, I looked out and I found the ship that was out there was not numbered correctly. It wasn't numbered for the Mirtha. I'm still going to tell the story like it was the Mirtha because I think that makes
Is that like that's a military ship? I
Yeah,
suppose.
it was a carrier that went out to pick them up, and it was actually pretty cool. I'm assuming that's what it was on Wednesday when we got here because there was another ship out there, but we didn't catch the number of it. But the one that's in the port now is not the number, the Mirtha's number, which is 26. This is 36 in there, but I'm going to tell the story. That's all right.
I can believe it, yeah.
No, it was super cool though, man. I was surprised to be so close to the fact where it dropped, where it splashed down, all that kind of stuff like that. And if we had gone out, we could have maybe, saw it coming in if we had taken the time to go out and know about it. But that's dope. All right. Tell me about San Diego. Are you here?
Hey, San Diego, man, I'm here honestly because I first lived in LA for 2.5 years after I first moved to California. And then just naturally, I had some, more distant family. I don't get to see them as much as I thought I would, truthfully, now that I'm here. Um, but yeah, I just actually reached my 2-year anniversary in San Diego. I came here, I was working for a firm as an associate attorney. Then I transitioned to another firm as an associate attorney. And truthfully, the second, position, it just kind of didn't work out, with like the, people I was working with. So it was more or less I faced the decision: do I want to be an associate attorney again, or do I want to like start my own business? And fortunately, I'd worked for some like lawyers who kind of ran solo practices. I saw how they, operated and made money because you got to survive in that sense, right?
Exactly.
And yeah, they did a good job, like kind of teaching me how I could, do it. And I also spoke with like 10, 15 attorneys in San Diego who are well accomplished. And from there, I've just been operating as like a solo. I'm self-employed. And, San Diego's a great place, to do business and stuff like that. So I don't really see myself leaving, anytime soon. Although, like I was telling you the other night at dinner, hey, LA, a lot of people talk trash about LA, but I think LA is actually a pretty fun place. It can be.
It's an interesting place. Okay, Nick, tell the truth. Because I'm going to tell you the truth. Nick looks like he's about 12. I'm not going to lie. He looks like he's 12. So you're saying that you've been working for 2 years here and 2 years there and you graduated. Nick, stop lying, man. Tell the truth. You're 18. You're 18, aren't you?
Yes. No, I wish I was 18. I'd be an impressive attorney if I was 18 at that point with a bright future. But no, hey, not having wrinkles yet, thankfully.
Good. Well, congratulations. No, this seems like a fun place, and it seems like you're doing a great job doing that. All right, Nick. What got you into law or anything else? Why did you not turn into another field? What was the push to get you not only pursue law but to become a lawyer and now to make it like your career path? What was that?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Basically, I was at Tennessee Tech. That's where my alma mater is for undergraduate, Cookeville, Tennessee, great university. But yeah, I thought I was going to be a football coach. Truthfully, I thought I was going to be like a professional football coach, college football coach, you name it. That was going to be my path. I was going to work on it. Yeah, but the thing is like until you reach like a high level, you don't really make any money in it. Yeah, unless you're in the SEC or something, right? Or Big Ten, they make a lot of money there. But yeah, right around like my junior year, I just really didn't enjoy doing that. I was an undergraduate assistant. I would like break down film. I would come up with scouting reports. Like I was very much like I had a good system on how to like manage the team and stuff or organize like information. Yeah, and I would inform our defensive coordinator like tendencies and stuff. And even during the game, I would like diagnose like, okay, the offense when they're in this formation, they were in this play this many times out of this formation to the point I was nailing it 100% of the time. I was always thinking I had like a gift in that, but I didn't like my junior year at what I was doing. So I kind of just was like, look, I'm just going to study from here on out. did well enough in school that I was like, hey, I have a shot to go to law school and study for the LSAT and got accepted and, followed that kind of, then that's kind of what led me to be a lawyer. I just kind of, further educate myself. I thought it was a bit of a way to like hedge against the football. Like I love football, but it's like, getting a better education can always help your future. And that's
never be a bad thing. Okay, I will tell you this, y'all. Nick explained fantasy football. Don't talk about it. I didn't understand fantasy football. I admit I did not understand it. I'm transparent with y'all. It's just me and you talking. I didn't understand fantasy. Nick broke it down in what, like 3 miles? I'm like, oh, however long it was.
very short.
It was a very short rainstorm because it was raining here in Southern California.
Believe it or not.
Tony lied to y'all. It did rain there. It was raining pretty serious, but it wasn't very long. He explained fantasy football. I'm like, wait, I actually think I understand this. And you said the draft is coming up when?
April 23rd on Thursday.
I'm lying. I'm not going to do this, but for the sake of the bit, I might jump in there. I might watch it. I might jump and check it out with you. But anyway,
give your own analysis. Like that Jay Witt breakdown of the draft. See what you think.
So my point is, like, Nick does know. He does the football. So for you to say that you were thinking about being a high school coach, I can see that because you broke it down to me. I had no idea. I didn't understand fantasy football. The amount of what I didn't know that you dispelled in that little quick 3-mile trip, I'm like, dang, I didn't know that. So shut up.
Hey, in career, communication is always key. Like whether you're a coach, lawyer, like the ability to communicate yourself gets you a lot farther in that career. So
I like it. So tell me this: as a lawyer, what would you say has been your most? Do you have a case that really, like, wow, this is the craziest story, craziest case, without giving any details? Okay, that you ever run into? You have anything like that yet?
Yeah, I've had like a lot of cases that.
Okay, now you got pick one.
Yeah, I guess like I'll try to be as general as possible. I had a negligent infliction of emotional distress case.
Hold on, wait a minute. Negligent infliction of emotional distress.
Yeah, and so basically, it's where
That's what my mom did to me when I was a child.
Might have been intentional. Yeah,
Right, there we go.
depending on the moment, right?
Shout out to my mom. Shout out to my mom.
No, but so yeah, it's basically in the term, right, or in the phrase. So that person commits a negligent act, and that negligent act causes emotional distress, severe emotional distress in another. And the case I was dealing with, and I'm not going to get too much more specific than this, but it involved a body mix-up of some people that had deceased, and there was a bit of a spiraling out from that case, and. Yeah, without revealing too many specific details, but that's probably the craziest one. I've dealt with like all kinds of alleged fraud schemes. Like, I've dealt with like churches kind of going at it with like members with each other. So
for real,
yeah, dude, it's like it
I don't want
gets
to get sued by my church. I don't want to get sued by Smyrna Press. Don't sue me.
Hey, those bylaws. Make sure you follow the church bylaws.
Well, we're Presbyterians, so we have a lot of those. So yeah, I'm probably in violation of them from where we go. I can tell you that. Wow. Okay. Anyone that you find like super rewarding, that really like, you know what? This is why I got into law. You help somebody, get paid off or get justice. Any cases like, yeah, this is why I do this.
Yeah, I would say for me, I really enjoy like the legal writing process. I think yes, because to be a good legal writer, you have to be a good thinker. You actually, have to go against your own logic at times, and it just takes a lot of study and to produce good material. And you got to be able to be somewhat humble when you have a conclusion and you're trying to go contrary to your own conclusion. So I would say like that's led me to really enjoy like motion writing. I wrote an appellate brief to the Ninth Circuit about 6 months ago. And the Ninth Circuit, it's one of the most famous federal circuits, in the United States. Some people might have some derogatory comments, but they're good people there. And so, yeah, no, that's pretty much like, where I'm at in my career. I just enjoy the writing aspects, and we'll see if I start appearing in court over the next, few years. But I should get to court, kind of like you were telling me. I look like I'm 18. I'm so worried about going into court and the judge thinking that, the jury thinking that, and it's like, hey, it might actually like inflict, it'll inflict prejudice against my client. You want to serve your client best you can, right? So
beer.
It's tough, man. I'm not as good. I'm not as skilled as you in that.
I've been growing since I was 4.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about the audio, y'all. Please forgive me. This is small. I'm sorry about that. It was tough. It's definitely not intentional. Please forgive me. If it's bad, then charge it to me. I apologize. We're doing our best. Somebody said no. Okay, so here comes a question. How old are you?
I'm 29.
I totally believe that.
Yeah.
I totally believe that. Dude, for real?
Mm-hmm. I'm going to be 30 in August, which, I'm fine with that. I don't really have, shoot, I'm already doing my own thing. It's like I might as well be 30s at this point. So it's just kind of going to be a number. You make the date, you cross the line, and keep going. And in the grand scheme of it, 30 is pretty young, That's the way I look at it.
That's kind of crazy. I'm actually disappointed in my life now. I'm 22 years older than you. That's crazy work.
Yeah.
But okay, all right. I found out something interesting about you. Did y'all know that me and Nick share something in common? In the chat, you know that me and Nick have something in common. Besides we're guys, don't do that. Besides we're on YouTube, but there's actually something that we both have in common. Let's see if they figure it out. You do remember this, right? We talked about it at dinner.
Do we have in common?
Yeah, that's what we have in common.
We got a lot of things in common. Well, I can think of a lot, but
there's something I don't want to give it because I can't meet the mic. We talked about it like you kidding me. You were talking about the basketball player that's named Nick Brooks. And then remember I started saying, well, you need to go by this particular moniker.
Yes, I recall.
We're from the South, okay.
No, I was thinking that too, whoever said from the South, exactly.
Okay. Birthdays? No, my birthday's coming up though. Shout out to anybody who knows when my birthday is. We're born in the same state. Oh, interesting.
That's not true, as I understand. No. Okay.
Do you know where I was born?
Georgia, correct? Ooh. Florida?
I really got y'all believing I'm a Southerner, don't I? Look, let me tell you, I love the South. I believe my mom and dad were like Mary and Joseph. I was supposed to be born in the South. They just so happened to be in Chicago.
Oh, interesting. Hey, Chicago,
you can keep it.
Yeah.
You're not missing. No, we are friends at this current moment. I'll give you a couple others, but your birthday's in August. So.
Exactly.
In August, mine's coming up next. Oh, sorry. Mine's coming up soon. Shout out if you know when my birthday is. Let me see. All right, Nick, let's talk about it. So you actually like the actual writing process of writing legal briefs? Because I thought you were like trying to get off the phone with me because I've heard you many times say, I'm in the process of writing a motion or something of that nature. I thought it was like your way of saying I gotta get off the phone. I gotta go fix the kids' dinner or something. I was like, okay, but you actually like doing that.
Yes, no, indeed. It's one of my favorite parts. You really got to be a good thinker, and and quite frankly, in the legal writing process, you learn, and so then you're a better communicator at that point. So
I believe it. Okay, so nobody. Wait. Did somebody say it?
Does everybody hear me okay on the mic? We good?
I think it's good. There's just a little reverb they said, but
okay.
I think we're
softly. I suppose.
Speak softly.
Yeah.
Say kind, smooth words to me.
Yeah.
All right. Here it is. Okay, I'm gonna. Oh, no, we haven't said what it is yet. This is interesting, and because I didn't know this, we both have undergrad degrees. Well, that's true.
Very true.
That's very true. I have an MBA. You have a Juris Doctor. So I have to call you Doctor Nick.
See, that's what I say. I've been arguing to be called Doctor, like Joe Biden or Dr. Joe Biden, excuse me. So I'm going to be Dr. Brooks. And
I like it. I like Dr. Brooks. I like it. All right, fun fact. Same majors. All right,
no, that's not true. No. Your major was business, I suppose.
My major was early childhood education, and my MBA is in business administration.
Okay, all right. Yeah, no, it's history.
All right, so this is a fun fact. I don't know if are they ready? Think they're ready? Save it for me. Make sure my likes are up where they need to be. Actually, fun fact. Nick and I have the same name. I didn't see that coming. Nick's middle name is my first name.
Jason.
Jason. Who would have thought that? When
You were shocked when I said that. You were like, what? Oh my gosh.
I just knew you were pulling my leg. Like, you're lying. So we were at dinner. We were talking about an NBA player. Was it NBA or NFL player that's named Nick Brooks?
No, a guy at Rutgers was actually named Nick Brooks. And now at Alabama. A guy at Alabama named Nick Brooks.
And I said, and he was like, well, this guy, he doesn't look like me. He's like tall and super, big and stuff like that. I said, well, you should go by Nicholas Brooks. And then I said, well, what's your middle name? And my middle name is Jason. I just knew you were lying. I was like, oh, you're pulling my leg. He was joking with me. Like, no, your middle name is Jason. I would have never saw that coming. What? I feel betrayed. Oh, you're not betrayed. Nick Jason Brooks. But we'll call him Dr. Brooks moving forward.
Yeah. We'll see what people think about that.
Yeah, there'll be some craziness. All right, so you like writing motions and you like the whole legal process and all that kind of good jazz. All right, here it comes. We're jumping in with both feet. Tell us about. Well, first of all, let me back up for a second. I mentioned this on my show earlier this morning. That Nick really doesn't like talking about topics that he really doesn't feel like he has a good grasp on. So, like for example, I don't know if you heard about the whole Anton Daniels, Corey Holcomb debacle going on in LA of all places.
No, I don't even. Or is that the actor?
He's a comedian. Corey Holcomb's a comedian. He got into a big dust up with a content creator, and the content creator is suing him for defamation. It literally just came out yesterday. And I said, somebody asked, would you talk about that? I said, I know for a fact, what I know about Nick, is if Nick doesn't feel like he has a good grip on the topic, he's not going to talk about it.
Yeah, you can frame it a certain way, but I mean, I haven't actually reviewed it. Fact. Yeah, it's out of your mouth is what I'm hearing. So
I said, one of the things about Nick is he seems very dedicated to only talking about things that he really, really, truly has a good grip on. Definitely doesn't want to give legal advice or anything like that could potentially sway somebody's understanding in the wrong direction if he doesn't have the right information. So that's one thing I've picked up about you, our conversations and so forth. But as it relates to defamation, why is that such a hard thing for people to nail down? But what is the big deal with defamation?
Yeah, I think it just kind of starts with understanding the legal elements, right, of defamation. Mm-hmm. A false statement of fact of another published to a third party that causes damages. And quite frankly, a lot of people don't understand what rises to like a statement of fact. They get confused that certain statements of opinion are actually statements of fact, and that's just not true. Like for example, if I said, Jay Witt's a liar. Like depending on the context, if I called you a professional cheat or something, or argued you were, committing embezzlement or something, that's actually a specific crime, so it rises to that level within defamation. But a lot of people just want to say, "Oh, you called me a liar," or "Oh, you're saying I hung out with this person," or just anything, right? It just doesn't like rise to a certain level. Like I'm sure you probably saw, some of the Erica Kurdrewski stuff, and like there was threats of defamation with respect to that. I mean, even with something like that, one would say that's not necessarily a statement of fact, but more of like a parody. Mm-hmm. And so there's even ways to just categorize statements. A statement of fact, opinion, is it like a parody? So yeah, I think people struggle to want to see that.
No, I totally get it. And one of the things like, for example, when you said somebody's a liar, like if I were joking with you and said, oh, like for example, oh man, Nick was so funny to me, he was killing me. Well, we know that you're not killing me or doing any harm or anything of that nature. I'm just using that as an expression to say that what he was saying was very funny or comical or whatever of that nature. And I think we understand it. But if I said, oh, Nick is a killer, that might be something different. Is that fair?
I mean, if it's like, if you're talking about me as a lawyer, I am a killer.
Oh. I like JK. I like it. Don't step to me. I'll give it his word. But if I was saying like, well, Nick is a killer in the general sense, it's fair to say that might be a little bit too much. Is that fair?
I mean, yeah, I guess, it'd be tough for me to sue you if you just were walking around generally saying that. I mean, if you started alleging me of committing certain specific crimes around Southern California,
Grand Theft Auto, man. Nick could be Grand Theft Auto and down this, what we on the 5, you said?
The 5, yeah,
The 5?
yeah.
Maybe GTA in on the 5, only on Saturday morning, because apparently it's going to be rough going back.
Yeah, right. No, and then also too, just one thing to bring up, and other people don't understand about defamation. I've actually dealt with this with clients. Is like, let's say somebody says a false statement of fact, right? They say something about like, I'll just keep it general. They say a false statement of fact. A lot of people just can't really measure the damages. Like, I'll give you a statement of fact. Let's say somebody says, "Oh, I own, 20% stock at Google," and it's just a false statement, right? What if somebody sues for defamation? I mean, it's a false statement of fact, and it's published to others. I mean, I guess in some ways it's maybe harmful to the reputation, but not really. I mean, there's no real harm. I mean, who can sue over the guy lying? I mean, there's people every day shouting on street corners about these crazy things about.
I was on the train yesterday. There was a guy. He was.
Yeah, I believe it.
He was a crazy cat. Yeah.
Good luck suing him, though. You're not going to recover anything, and then you're probably not going to be able to show damages anyway.
Right.
And that's what a lot of people just struggle to understand. Like, and I've unfortunately kind of seen that with some clients at times. So
I got you. So when is a situation where you say, no, that actually is truly defamation, where you gave me a false statement of fact, and there is a true, like, for example, you besmirch my character, and now nobody wants to podcast with me, or nobody wants to work with me, or my business was viewed negatively because of the false statement that you made about my crumpets that I made, or whatever. Is it something like, how did it get to the point where it's truly defamation, not just this murky area?
Yeah, so really, you kind of have to evaluate. I mean, defamation, you can cut. I swear, it's like a really kind of shifty subject. You can chop it up 1,000 different ways, but ultimately, it goes back to those same core elements that I mentioned: a false statement of fact published to another, or of another, published to a third party that causes reputational harm. When we're dealing with defamation per se, it's generally going to involve certain categories of statements, such as accusing another of a crime. However, if it doesn't fall under defamation per se, which presumes reputational damages. So, quick example, you accuse me of having accused person A this time on this street and blah blah blah. I mean, very specific stuff. That's going to rise to a crime. So we're going to categorize that as defamation per se. Reputational damages are presumed. Now, if we have to deal with another type of defamation. If you're not dealing with defamation per se, and you don't have these categories of speech, you have to then show that the certain false statements of fact caused reputational harm, and you have to actually specifically prove that reputational harm. And so, like, what that would involve is like, take for example here, where, I don't know if you want me to mention the name yet, if it's coming out.
Oh gosh, go ahead and do it.
Hey, we got Candace Owens with Brigitte Macron, and that lawsuit. So one of the issues that I actually have in this is I don't think any of the statements that related are going to fall under defamation per se. And so with that, Brigitte Macron is not going to have her reputational damages presumed. The only way Brigitte Macron is going to succeed in court is she's going to actually have to show specific damages in different categories, such as what types of reputational damage did she suffer? We could get really creative and we could say she lost certain opportunities. She had to.
A book deal.
Yeah, a book deal. That's a good example. Also, too, when you're dealing with politicians, sometimes they'll even take out their own personal expenses to pay a PR firm. And so, yeah, I think that's, maybe an expense that she could claim. So she's spending millions of dollars on PR firm to rehabilitate her image as a result of Candace Owens spreading rumors that she's a man. Yeah, that's going to be recoverable for sure.
I got you. Okay. Could you explain per se, defamation per se? I don't know why it's not.
Yes.
Commoners use it flippantly.
Yeah.
So explain per se.
Okay. So per se is actually a Latin term that means in and of itself or within itself. And so if I say defamation per se, it's defamation in itself. That's what if I recall correctly.
So the action itself is the example being, I said this about Nick. It was wrong. It was false. It was not true. That is the reputational harm. The statement itself.
It's just it's basically within. This is kind of a creation of U.S. law, but it's basically just like you have normal defamation where you know we could get creative and you allege something harms your reputation. Anything could, right? Like I could say pretty much anything about you, and if it's sustained enough, and
my reputation.
Yeah,
Exactly.
If I called you like a liar, the whole time, or I was like, oh, Jay Witt stole a bunch of money from me when he was out here visiting, like, that's when it starts crossing the line. But just to get back to the point of like what is defamation per se and how to think of it, it's just specific categories of speech that if you say it about another person, that's it. You've crossed the line already. And the certain categories of speech that fall within defamation per se, there's four that we had to study for the bar. I immediately recall three. One of them being accusing another of serious crime. So I let you.
GTA.
Well, it's not specific enough. GTA.
Okay. Good point. Yeah.
So you have to be specific in that allegation. And so, yeah, that means specific crime, dates, times, all that, when and where. There's also accusing another of a loathsome disease. So if I was going around saying Jay Witt has a certain loathsome disease, and well, that's not necessarily. I would argue that's maybe not loathsome enough.
Third grade. In third grade, it's loathsome.
Yes, but technically, that type of accusation, if I said that about you, if you had a certain disease, you could sue me for that. Actually, yeah. And then there's actually the unchastity of a woman. So if you accuse a woman of being unchaste, that's technically suable under a lot of states. So be careful what you say about certain individuals. I think Candace Owens kind of benefits from that, maybe at times, like with respect to certain types of her commentary. You can't go certain places with her personal life, but she can go places in your personal life that you got to be careful, about. And there was another one, but I'm forgetting that fourth category immediately.
So the finances,
professional misconduct, actually. If you accuse one of professional misconduct, that would qualify as defamation per se. So if you told me, as a lawyer, we're good?
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah. If you told me as a lawyer, basically, that I'm, committing fiduciary duty violations and I was stealing from my client's trust accounts or something, that's actually rising to the level.
That'll be big.
Yeah. Serious. That would be rising to the level of defamation per se, which would be actionable, of course.
Right. We are good to go. Yeah, but get rid of one of these.
Oh, good.
Yep. We're good to go. We still have loathsome disease. Like cooties, man. Come on. Cooties. All right. So tell me what you think about, I want to say it's next week, Macron dismissal case is going to come up. You were telling me some things about it, what you think pertaining to it. What do you think is going to be the outcome? Will it be dismissed? Nick's legal opinion, do you think it'll be dismissed?
Yeah, so focusing first on the Candace Owens Brigitte Macron case, I don't think it'll be dismissed. I do think that it will survive the motion to dismiss, because when you read the motion to dismiss, you have to actually state the grounds upon which you seek to dismiss the case.
Correct.
Whenever you read Candace Owens' motion, it only relates to things such as venue, personal jurisdiction, forum non-convenience. There is nothing in there. And I think this is a poor job on the Candace Owens attorney's part that they did not include anything that said failure to state a claim. And if I was Candace Owens' attorney, what I would have done is I would have said, I'm going to seek to dismiss, arguing that accusing a woman of being a man is not a defamatory statement, false statement of fact. And so with that, that's how I would have moved about it. But Candace Owens' lawyers seem to ignore that completely. And they just focused on the venue and jurisdictional aspects of the case for their motion to dismiss. And they had the right to bring the failure to state all facts sufficient to bring a claim. And so, with that, what I think is actually going to happen is all these jurisdictional arguments are not sufficient on Candace Owens' part. I think the jurisdiction's fine to proceed in Delaware for all the reasons we've actually previously discussed.
For sure.
And I don't see it getting dismissed at all. And now, I think we discussed a little bit.
Go ahead.
The president was actually involved with it. If anybody saw the Truth Social post, involving Candace Owens, and he hopes that Candace Owens is held liable for a lot of money. And did you say that he thinks that Brigitte Macron is a much prettier woman and Candace Owens. So
let me tell you this. I truly believe that in history, if we ever get to a saner place in history where we can look at, events from a sane, rational point of view, I think most people realize Trump trolls. Trump trolls better than anybody else. I mean, 50 Cent learned how to troll from Trump. Trump is, I mean, he knows what egg somebody on. He did that. I really don't know if he really believed that as much as he said it. And I think he said it because he knew it was going to torque her off. And because she's, saying that this person's a man. And Trump just said, somebody pretending to be a man looks better than you. And I think that
it's a huge insult,
right. It was
for sure.
Gigantic.
And a lot of her followers are followers of. So there's probably an inner division within a lot of people that follow. Like, how do you resolve that? That's got to be a tough one.
Yeah, he's a super troll. I'm sorry. Trump knows how to troll people.
But I will say, I want to point out this though: when you have the president of the United, I mean, you're just a state judge, right? Like, I'm not a judge. I've never been a judge. Hope maybe one day we'll see if a governor nominates me to be a judge.
I like it.
Pretty young right now, I think, to be a judge. I get fried by a legislator, to say the least, on something. But yeah, I think, if you're a state judge and you have the power to just say, I'm going to deny this dismissal because I'm going to take all the allegations in favor of the non-moving party, which here's Brigitte Macron. Oh, and by the way, the president of the United States is going to be on my side if I deny this motion. I just think that emboldens the denial. And what I think will happen is I think Candace Owens is married to a very rich man, and she can settle this case for a lot less. I think you're going to see a settlement probably within the 7 figures range that would be acceptable to the Macron. So that's starting at $10 million or so. And if they're able to settle the case for $10 million, as I understand, her husband's worth what, $250 million or something?
Right.
Okay, so they'll settle that out, and like because his company's also involved in this lawsuit. Yeah. And so with that being,
he's a part of it. So yeah. So the only reason I don't think she'll settle it is that is a huge blow to her ego. This is an ego thing. She said, now granted, I think everybody realizes she is a walking contradiction. She was literally on Piers Morgan on Tucker Carlson saying, oh yeah, I'm not going to dismiss this case. I'm not going to dismiss this case while her attorneys are filing to dismiss it in the same time. Now I understand that's a legal strategy, but for her to say, oh, I'm not going to dismiss this case, I wanted to go to the end, only to be doing it on the back end does look duplicitous. It does look, I understand it's a legal strategy that you all employ. Probably the first strategy of many is to just ask for it to be dismissed. I'm not mad at that part. It's just the fact that she didn't either A, know that, or B, she was being disingenuous. But she also has said on her show that she didn't have the money. She said that before. Now I don't know how
really.
She did say that. Like she did a call. Like she said there's gonna be like $5 million to defend herself or something like that. And she said we don't just have that money. And she literally was like asking her audience. So I don't know how true or false that is. And her audience, maybe they just, they'll send money just because. But she did say that.
That just seems to be false. I can't say because as I understand, her husband's a very wealthy guy. Under the legal bill, you know what I mean?
There's no argument for me at all, but she had said that. So therein is that problem. I do think and I just can't. Now she's going to have to phrase it some kind of way, settlement, to make her save face. But I just don't know if she would do it. That's my
the thing is, like, with respect to saving face, like, if it gets past the motion to dismiss phase, you're inevitably going to run into it like an ego problem, right? Like, you're going to lose the motion to dismiss. That's going to be a blow to your ego. So that's already like an ego shot. Then it's a matter of, okay, do you want certain things to be discovered? Because you're going to have to enter into the discovery phase, and you have to produce documents, respond to certain, all depositions, written discovery. And so if that part comes up, well, then will she put an answer, provide a document that's going to be even more embarrassing than just paying a $10-15 million settlement? And I think the Macrons be willing to settle for that amount of money because, like, I know people talk about corruption and stuff with government officials, but I'm not always so sure they're going to be able to make $10 or $15 million in their lives, absent settling a case like that. So I think the Macrons would probably settle for an amount like that because I don't know if they're going to get that in public or private life. So
okay, I got you. All right, we got another valid question, a very valid question. Are we going to try sourdough donuts? Somebody asked me, have you had these? What are
I
these?
haven't had these. No, I think I've heard of the different sourdough. You can, man, there's so many good dishes you can make with sourdough bread. In fact, there's a famous restaurant somewhere in San Diego or LA. They cook their French toast with sourdough bread, and it's apparently incredible the way they prepare it. And it's worth a bunch of money, but you can make the recipe at home, quite frankly.
All right, so we have to go get sourdough donuts on the way back.
Okay.
We have to get lunch too.
Yeah.
We're gonna get sourdough donuts. We didn't get it this morning.
No.
Because y'all, we were looking for where our hotel is, where you live. There are a lot of little coffee houses and such of that nature. I just said, hey, we'll get coffee when we get close to the studio. Get close to the studio, there's none of them. Except Starbucks.
Hey, I love Starbucks. That's my go-to place. No free advertising though. Check.
Well, what do you think the Macrons will request for discovery? It's on scripts. Be legit.
Can you read that question one?
Sure. What do you think the Macrons are going to request in discovery? And do you think Candace Owens' scripts will be legit?
Well, they can get access to those scripts themselves because you can just straight up download the video, upload it to a transcript generator, and have the transcript. So I think you can use what she's already said in the videos. You already have access to that evidence. The Macrons, what's going to be important to gain access to evidence that they do not already have. So a lot of these false statements of fact obviously are already there.
The public, right?
Exactly. I guess one of the things though is like if you're the Macrons, you're going to want to understand some of the maybe financial motives behind stating these false statements of fact. So with that, you would naturally want to seek like financial records, such as bank records. If YouTube provides any of like the forms related to how much income you make, you would want to see the viewership records. I would in fact seek all the data with respect to like the analytics tab. You might even have to have like a good young lawyer in your law firm that knows how YouTube works. And I would be like, hey, I'm going to delegate you to coming up with some good discovery on this. So, some of the partners with Macron's firm might be looking at some of their younger attorneys, like you guys are more savvy on what types of documents we should be seeking with respect to viewership and finances. And that's the type of documents I think the Macrons want to go after. You can be creative and come up with other types of documents, like communications. Who was Candace Owens communicating with? As I understand, there are certain allegations that you may have been involved with, people within the federal government having communications with respect. And I would want to know that. I would want to see communications with other content creators about, the Macron and why she's pushing certain things. And so I think there's a lot of, information that you would want to seek, documents you would want to seek. Yeah.
So, okay. So what could Candace ask of the Macrons?
I think for the Macrons, or what Candace want to ask from the Macrons, how did this harm your reputation? Like,
what would be the discovery that she would ask?
Show me the receipts for PR firms you paid that you had hired to rehabilitate your image as a result of my alleged defamatory statements. That's how I would phrase the question. Because then, what if the Macrons have zero evidence of receipts spent on PR firms, and it's just they're not able to show exactly, not able to prove any documentation, which again, to prove her allegation, she's got to show special evidence or special damages. So she's actually got to produce the documents that evidence these damages. It's not like what I'm saying, like you accuse me of being a criminal and it's just presumed to have reputational harm. It's, hey, you're accusing me of being a man and I'm not a man. Okay, well, that's not presumptively harmful. So show us how it harms you. Show us the documents, show us the loss of engagements, show us the messages that negative messages you received or something like that. And that's where I think Candace Owens could also zero in on. And I think we discussed this previously, but they are public figures in a way with like public positions. So I don't think you're going to be able to argue like you lost a government position as a result. I
wasn't elected governor.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be kind of a tough recovery too. Like, how would you recover for that? Think of that.
I was running for governor. Y'all shot me down.
Hey, that could be an issue though. People come if you were like a woman and somebody's accusing you of being a man and trying to run for governor. I could see that actually affecting your campaign in a way. And then, like, how would you remedy that? Like, you could sue the individual stating it, and I guess recover. Like, you hired a PR firm as the campaign or something. Maybe you could recover that type of money. I think, potentially.
Interesting.
But then you got to show actual malice too, because it does involve a public figure. And that goes back to the actual malice standard in the New York Times, knowing reckless disregard for the truth or intentional disregard for the truth.
All right. Because she claimed emotional damages with psychiatric receipts.
Yes.
Okay, so that can be part of the showing that the reputation of honor.
Absolutely. And that's a great point by that viewer as well, to point that out. And so essentially what would happen is, okay, show me where this harmed your reputation. So she shows them all this reputational harm. And I would argue absolutely that if you've got to pay for like a therapist, to like help you address or, whatever you got to do, transportation cost to go see your preacher or something, right? You name it. I would seek to recover on those types of bills. Absolutely. Because like, that's a special type of damage that occurred as a result of these false statements that caused reputational harm. It's just an extra category that not exactly tied to the reputational, but it still is because like if a person suffers severe reputational harm, on heinous allegations like that, I could see that absolutely like affecting their emotional health and maybe recovering for that.
No, I got you. That's a good point. I love it. Let's see if I'm missing another good question there. That's a good one.
And then too, I know as we discussed, like my issue with like some of the Brigitte Macron and the Candace Owens case is just like I've never heard a case in U.S. law, and I looked this up at the state level and at the federal level, and I wasn't able to find a case where a woman has successfully sued for being wrongfully said that she's a man. The closest I was able to come was that Richard Simmons, the former, the gym guy,
was aerobics.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. 40s, he passed recently, a couple of years ago, as I understand. But he was alleged, like the tabloids picked up that he had undergone like a sex change, and that wasn't true, and he alleged it caused him reputational harm. So while that's not, it is a little bit of stating he's a woman while he's a man. But this was sued in L.A. court, which L.A., a lot of people say, oh, so it's the liberal court. They're going to always fine for you that way. The L.A. court said that this is not defamation per se to simply misgender a person in this way. Like you actually have to show special damages on how this harms you. And so I think that's where, like, the most analogous case Macron can use is the Richard Simmons case and say that she's been similarly misgendered and that it's causing her these types of special damages. But it's a very new kind of case. And also too, just simply misgendering a person is not always like emotionally harmful or reputationally harmful. Mm-hmm. It's more of like the sustained campaign aspect. Because Candace Owens has an entire series dedicated to this.
Correct.
Almost in a seemingly harassing way. And so with that, that crosses a little bit more of a line. And she can try to be technical and say there's no lines and I didn't cross anything, but it's like the creation of a playlist, and
it's a whole series.
Yeah, it's not just like a stray comment at one point. It's more of a sustained, long-term thing.
So this is, I haven't heard anybody talk about this. When does this get into like cyberbullying or like special harassment? Than just saying, I say one time off, Nick is a criminal. Versus I do a 19-part series on how Nick Brooks is a criminal. And all this kind of stuff like that. At what point does it get more than just a one-off to like, again, special harassment, cyberbullying?
Yeah. So one of the issues actually, and we have to study this in constitutional law, like when we're in law school and you study for the bar, is like sometimes with respect to like bullying statutes, it's difficult to apply those statutes. They're sometimes overbroad because, if you tried to draw up a bullying statute right now, you would inevitably run into conduct that's just kind of over-inclusive, or that law could be used in wrongful ways. So it's generally, like overbroad, a little bit vague and ambiguous, and different constitutional grounds, just to attack the text of the bullying statute. It's just saying it can't be applied for these different reasons. And so when we're dealing with something like cyberbullying, that's one issue we kind of run into.
Right.
Also, people have a right to like state certain facts, of people. It's just you can't state false statement of facts. So that's kind of how it addresses. Bullying is just very difficult to apply. harassing is, it's more of a criminal kind of aspect. I mean, I guess there's maybe some civil conduct to that, but it's more like intentional infliction of emotional distress.
Okay.
But yeah, harassing, it just crosses the line. Like, I don't know, you get thousands of text messages that are like, directly at you. I don't think it's harassing just to like state on the public street corner and you live way over there. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's a difficult analysis just on my first impression.
Yeah, I would love to hear if there is. I'm sure somewhere in the world or in the States, somebody's trying to figure that out. Because again, it's not just she's saying it on the street corner. You're saying it to a mass of 2 million, an audience of 2 million, and it's an ongoing, sustained campaign. And again, it's not just a one-off. Because I'm only saying this on the street corner as long as I'm staying on the street corner. But if I'm doing it every day on the street corner, maybe it might be a little bit more, like even what she did with Erica. Like 7 parts or 7 videos on Erica and such of that nature. So I'm just wondering if there's something there, but I understand. I can definitely respect
And
that.
if I may too, one of the things is like sometimes you have to go with the best available theory. And so here I would say maybe the best available theory is like defamation rather than civil harassment of some sort. If civil harassment's even an applicable statute in Delaware.
No, I got you. Good question, Jason. How will case affect current and future cyberbullying laws for minors?
Yeah, with respect to something like this, like I mentioned with cyberbullying, it's just difficult to apply the statutes because it's so vague and ambiguous. For any of the viewers watching, I would challenge you to come up with your own styles of bullying statutes because we all want to prevent bullying. I think you would want to prevent it. I would want to prevent it. It's just when you start actually trying to craft a law, it's a little bit vague. And I think that's been an issue over the course of multiple legislatures in different states trying it. And then with respect to the minor issues, I mean, I see politicians kind of on each side stating that there should be certain age restrictions with social media. I'm not, I don't know. I haven't really given it much thought in my opinion on that. But yeah, no, that is kind of a trend.
So this is another good question. So looking at the Macron case and in order to bring up previous activities that Candace has done, were those needed to have been litigated or canonized as like criminal or brought up or anything like that? Or can we just say, she said this about Johnny or she said this about Sally on her show several years back. Nothing came of it, but notice she has a pattern of bullying people or harassing people or defaming people, even though it was never litigated. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm trying to make sure.
Trying to basically, as I understand it, you're trying to squeeze into evidence previous
Bad actions.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Now the thing is, this is actually applying evidence law, and if you're a good evidence law attorney, good trial attorney, for example, I mean they'll find a way to get anything in. Truthfully, like they're very creative. Generally, though, it's like you can't really. You're not bringing it in for the truth of the matter. You're bringing it in for just hearsays. Trying to bring in evidence. What is an out of court statement, often for the truth of the matter.
Mhm.
So really, you're trying to bring in those other videos, not to prove the truth of those videos therein. You're more so trying to prove that she has a pattern of bullying. Now, it's possible that if she contests that she's a bully or that characterization, maybe the judge doesn't even want you to say that term because it's too prejudicial.
Sure.
I mean, I'm not even a trial attorney either. This is my initial impression thinking of the case. Yeah, that it would be a tough,
So let me try to create an environment. I know you don't. Let's say that I'm the bad guy. I'm the guy that's defaming somebody, and so I've accused Greg. Shout out to Greg. Thank you, man. I've accused Greg of doing something bad on my show. Greg is first of all, I can't accuse him for being bad because he just blessed us with $10. But let's just say I did, and I said something bad about Greg. Okay, and that was Greg got upset about it. He was in the comments saying that defending himself, and I just said, Greg, you're a good for nothing, low down, whatever. And so, but it never went anywhere. Never went anywhere. And I did the same thing to Amethyst. Same thing. I called her on another show. I just called her good for nothing, low down. Talk bad about her and such like that. So I got a pretty solid reputation of being foul and calling people names and being harsh. Now, I did the same thing to you, but you said, no, I'm going to sue you, Jason. So you actually bring up a case against me. Could you bring up those other instances? That's what I want to know. Are we going to be able to bring those in and say, hey, here's a pattern of Jason harassing other people, calling them bad names, defaming them, lying on them, slandering them, whatever term you want to use, as a pattern that he's done this before. I'm the only one that just was willing to sue. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, really, though it seems like the alleged statements you're talking about to your previous statements to your viewers are more just like insults that aren't really specific enough to be facts. And I would almost argue that, I mean, sure, you could probably get creative and want to squeeze that in. I would just argue that to allow that evidence is going to be prejudicial to like it's. I mean, so sometimes you have to you strike a balance, right? Like, okay, yeah, there might be some probative value like in that evidence, for whatever reason. But if we allow that evidence, like, is there this counter thing where it's like people are too focused on this, not actually to the truth? There's a lot like, and that's the whole reason you have like character evidence. Like if you have a defendant, I'm not going to bring, if you have a criminal defendant, all I'm doing is trying to, as the prosecutor, bring in evidence of his character. That's an improper prosecution. Like you're trying to prosecute people for what they're allegedly to have done. You're not trying to prosecute people for their character, at trial. And sometimes like prosecutors think, oh man, if I just make this guy seem to be like a bad guy, jury won't like him, I'm going to get my conviction. And that's fine. But like you have evidence law prohibits like, just bringing in character evidence just to try to do that because people have tried to do that before.
Okay. All right. Sean's great. What did Greg say? Does the reputational damages have to be limited to her reputation in the U.S. or can it be extended to the worldwide reputation? I'm assuming they're talking about Brigitte Macron's reputation. That's interesting.
No, it's a great point. I would say, yeah, I mean, it could ultimately, I think worldwide, if it implement, but the thing is like, again, it's not these speculative damages that you harm my reputation and it's incalculable. It's like, no, I mean, we have to calculate some things. You got to show me evidence like, okay, the PR firm at which you sought to remedy your reputational harm, they quoted you $2.5 million in order to do that. And so like that would be maybe evidence that you could bring in that's more measurable. But if you just tried to go in, it harmed my reputation. All right, what evidence do you have? Well, it just did. That's not going to work. And then also it's just like really bad if you didn't like pursue ways to mitigate your reputational harm, such as hiring a PR firm. That's the one strategy to mitigate, fallout from bad press.
I got it. That's good stuff. I appreciate it. Let me see. Reputation of her malice actions. Oh, repetition of her malice actions. Can they bring the previous judgment with journalists in France?
So
yeah, that's okay. Now we're in Delaware. That happened across the pond. Great go.
Yeah, so basically, I kind of did some quick research into this. It could probably be more fleshed out. You could, if she's alleging that she suffered reputational harm within France that required certain things, not only would you be showing, for example, like the statements related to how much she's going to spend on PR firms, you would also call essentially as witnesses people within French society that testified to her reputational harm. So that, I mean, who would you choose? Maybe you could choose editors of certain publications. Maybe certain cultural political figures. I'm not sure. Would you want to choose an average person? I think there's many different witnesses maybe you could call for that. But ultimately, you're going to need a witness from France to testify how, these alleged statements caused her reputational loss within French society. And that's going to, like I said, require testimonial evidence. And so that's how I get it in.
Okay. No, that's all right. So they would. Do you foresee them doing trying to get evidence from France, from cases in France, brought in again? Do you see them doing that? Or do you think the merit of what they're doing here in Delaware is enough?
And I think they're going to go after all of it. I think they're going to do exactly that.
Go everywhere.
But I think, truthfully, I think if I had one of the truth lassos that Wonder Woman has, and I could, wrap it around the neck of the lawyers, I think they're pretty much like, look, if we survive this motion to dismiss, Candace Owens is going to want to settle this case because she's not interested in discovery. and you're going to see probably a pretty quick settlement after that, I would imagine. And so, yeah, I think that's their first step. Let's survive this motion to dismiss, get to discovery, and once we get to discovery, we're just going to start trying to settle the case. And they've got evidence what they're going to get already, ideas. And I think that's their number one focus, because I don't know if they think. I think some if you're a good attorney there, that her likelihood of settlement is so high that you really need to be anticipating that in some sense. Sure, remember that evidence ahead, but also be ready for the settlement that's about to arise.
Got it. So you think that okay. Where do you see this going? Looking in your crystal ball. Legal crystal ball. Do you think they're gonna you believe that the judge is gonna survive? And maybe I should say another way. When do you foresee them trying to settle it? Do you think the girls really want to go?
I mean,
Go in trial?
I think too, like if you're smart and you're the Crohn's, there's in California, I don't know what the equivalent is in Delaware, you can bring like a 998 offer, which basically says, look, I offer to settle the case for you for this amount. Check yes or no is basically at the bottom what it says. It'll be like, let's say 1.2 million. Let's say the Crohn's send a 998. She can click accept or deny. The thing is if the Macrons recover more than that, well, then Candace Owens will be liable for all the legal bills as well. So it's a way you can leverage, like making Owens pay for the legal bills of Macron, because the Macrons early can just send this offer, say, you just sign it here.
I got you. Okay.
Sign here and it's all done. You don't have to, we all walk away. But if you continue and you deny it, not only are you going to pay our damages, you're also going to pay our attorney's fees on top of it. And guess what? In a case like this, when all this evidence requires depositions, work, like those attorneys are going to be very expensive. I can see attorney's fees easily creeping up into like $1 million. If this case were fully prosecuted, maybe 1.52.
Did you hear about this happened in Georgia, where they have a recovery once a DA has been removed from a case? The not say the client, but the person that was being charged can seek to have those damages. And Trump, and the RICO trial was brought up, they're like at $16 million somewhere, and Trump alone is like 6.4, and they want all their money. Now, granted, I went over it. Some of the things are a little bit iffy, like dinners and stuff like that. $2,000 to take a hard drive across town, an empty hard drive across town. I'm like, Amazon would have did that for $49.99 Prime. My God, but some of it seems legit, so I can kind of see that. I would probably want to settle it before I had all those fees, because those fees are going to be. I think those fees are going to be pretty high.
Yeah, I mean,
I would run up the score myself personally. I would try my best to run up the score.
I mean, too, I will say that defamation's a tort. So in theory, Macron's could also ask for punitive damages. Would a jury be willing to award punitive damages in a case like this? Potentially, if they find Owens, acted with malice. And I think there is some evidence that she's acted with malice. And you were talking about bringing in all those evidence of previous bullying. I'd say, here's other examples where she's acted with malice. If you can get it in, there may be arguments as to why not. But, yeah, I would. Oh man, I'd be going after punitives, because that would, certainly double, triple your damages. And if you're already getting that, a damage award of 5 to 10 million or something like that, you're going to double, triple it. It's a lot of money.
She has done some pretty gnarly things to other persons who's run afoul of her. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a list of folk like, yeah, I'll jump in on this.
The state judge who's hearing the case knows that the president is tweeting about his case. Like,
oh yeah, when you're talking about that part, right?
The judge has to and so he's probably thinking like, man, I'm getting pressed for this. I'm, not like a bad, the judge is like a good guy. I'm not saying in a negative way, but like it reveals how important this kind of case is, and like it also does reveal the power judges have, to kind of decide over legal affairs. So,
wow. Okay, so I think this is asking if the Macron lawyer can use the French case against the journalist. So there was a case in France where the journalists were found guilty of besmirching, but I think they appealed it, and the appellate court overturned the original. I forgot exactly what journalist that was already settled in favor of the Macrons here to build a case against Candace Owens.
Like you're trying to use the former judgment in a way to,
correct.
I'd have to think of the reason to get it in. I guess if you're trying to establish maybe that she's not truly a man, maybe that's one way, the order would say that, really it would just be about what facts from that order in France are you trying to establish in this case? And why do you need that order to establish those facts?
Because she was being a bully to the other person.
But Candace Owens is
I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
It's those
the journalists,
ladies.
Right? It's the journalists. I don't know. It's a good question.
I mean,
I don't think it's necessary, in my opinion, either. But go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's some I'd have to give a little bit more thought to that. But I'm sure you could find some type of. I mean, it definitely come into evidence. Like if you asked for that, like if Candace Owens wrote a discovery question, provide the information of all cases that you've sued under similar theories of defamation with respect to being alleged to have been a man. Yeah, she's going to have to produce that information. If she requests documentation, she'll have to produce the documentation. So absolutely, though, that's how it can come up. How it's admissible at trial, we'll see.
We'll see. You got a fan. It cracks me up when he is. There you go.
What's that?
Hey, Megan, you got a little bit of a fan club there.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Hey, very nice. Yeah, I do my best.
All right. Candace gleaned some of her facts based on information from those journalists. Right. So the journalists in France, I think I forgot the name. One was last name was Roy. Another one, there was an author named Xavier Pritchard, and I forgot the second journalist. But anyway, Natasha Ray. There's Roy, Ray, and Pritchard. That's where a lot of her information about Brigitte Macron came from. Those journalists and that author. Now the journalists were sued, and I think the author was sued too. And it was found in favor of Macron's. So with that information, so somehow or another, here on this side of the pond, they have to find a reason to bring it in. And why is it valid to the discussion? Is that
pretty much? I would say, yeah, because you don't want to bring in anything that's like, prejudicial, I suppose. But I just have to see the reasons for wanting to bring it in or to exclude it, really.
Okay. Yeah, I don't fully know why she's obsessed with this argument either. To me, I think a lot of them are just kind of silly. Somebody just asked why she's obsessed with Brigitte Macron. I don't know.
Bob Robinson too.
Well, yeah, we're gonna talk. Yeah, let's do that. Let's shift gears. We're gonna talk about that Tyler Robinson. What do you want to say about the Tyler Robinson case?
So pretty much, as I understand, he doesn't have a set trial date. So it's all still like preliminary hearing, things of that nature. And, as kind of, I'm sure a lot of your viewers know that she's alleged the whole conspiracy that it was a foreign government or some third party actor, not Tyler Robinson, who's alleged to have done this. Mm-hmm. And, ultimately it seems like Tyler Robinson's attorneys have picked up on that. And there was even an allegation about like the bullet not being the same as
it was.
But the prosecution responded to those public reports and basically said, look, we got an overwhelming amount of evidence. And I even think that might not even be completely true about the bullet. I think they might actually have a response to that or how to counter that point at trial. So yeah, I think that's kind of an interesting development is how they have seemed to adopted certain Candace Owens talking points in that. Now, the question I think becomes too is where did Candace Owens get these talking points? Did she independently come up with these? Because it seems like one of the reasons that she became incredibly popular was she was leading a lot of these allegations and these quoted inquiries and doing it under the auspice of oh, I'm the friend of Charlie Kirk and I truly care about him. Meanwhile, Erica Kirk's not doing it. As I understand, there's an alleged investigation into Joe Kent, the former National Counterterrorism Center director. And yeah, it's very possible that he could have been providing certain narratives that seemed to make it oh, there was a foreign government involved. But I looked this up. Joe Kent, he literally, in his capacity as the director of the National Counterterrorism Center,
right.
All his job is to literally check for any foreign ties that to check that don't. You're not the FBI. You're not the local authorities. You don't get to control the investigation and say you got to look in that more. You got to look. No, your job is to check. I think what really happened is I think he just became very discontent in his position. I don't think he found it very like intellectually stimulating or prestigious. And apparently there was like an alleged investigation into his leaking aspects, like a couple months prior to his resigning. And I just think for him to resign and then run to Tucker Carlson
next day,
then to say those views that Candace Owens had parroted for so long, just for, and apparently the allegations, as I understand it, are Joe Kent was talking with Tucker Carlson. He was also leaking to someone else in like the right wing ecosphere. And I just happen to think that's Candace Owens. I haven't seen that, but I just have a feeling based on what he said with the Tucker Carlson after. Yeah, so I don't think he has a lot of credibility. But I think he's given Candace Owens a lot of these theories to then state on her podcast.
No, I agree with you. And the bullet was just fragmented. It was inconclusive. I agree with that. Doesn't mean that the bullet did not match or didn't come from that gun. I agree 100%. What does she say here? Shout out to Megan. She says, Nick, is it malice? Oh, this is a great point. Is it malice if Candace said on several shows that she was only going to do one episode until they sued her, and then she said she's going to do a whole series on the McCarthy's? Would that? Because she said like, oh, I was just going to do one episode about it. But then they asked her to stop, and then she said, oh, you want me to stop? I'll just keep doing it. Then they sued her, oh, I'm going to do more. So that's how I got this part. Would that play into some of that?
Yes, absolutely. I would absolutely want that in as evidence of she acted with malice. She knew it was intentionally, harmful and or at least recklessly disregarded that. And she was doing it to and quite frankly, in spite of people telling her to stop. And so, yeah, actually, I believe that's absolutely should come in. Is there an argument against that coming in? There's going to be an argument as to why it should come in.
Right.
But ultimately, it's going to be decided by the judge because they have the discretion on whether to admit or deny the admission, evidence.
I got you. Great question, by the way. Shout out. I think that was all of them at the time. Where do you see the Tyler Robinson case going? You think he's going to just plead? You think they're going to take it all to trial?
Yeah. So right now, as I understand, the Utah criminal authorities are seeking the death penalty. And so whenever you have that on the table, criminal defendants are going to cooperate a lot more because, they don't want to be prosecuted by the state. And so with that said, I think, the prosecution's office is going to use that as leverage to get a guilty plea. And it's just going to be, what does Robinson think he can get out of it? 20 years? As I understand, there's plenty of evidence. And he was responding in forums and there's communications to people. He's like, I had a shot to do it. And I took it. And there's all these allegations with respect to that. And so, I just think there's enough there that, he probably will take a plea deal. And if he doesn't, then prosecution is just going to prosecute him. And I think he'll be found guilty. But obviously, that has to play itself out. That's not a foregone conclusion or anything.
Gotcha.
And who knows, what type of jurors do we get? Or because now at any criminal trial in the United States, there was a decision called Ramos v. Louisiana. I had to read this in law school, but it requires that in order to get a successful guilty conviction, you have to have all 12 jurors agree, to guilty. There is no 9-12, or excuse me, 9-3, 10-2, all that. You got to get unanimous. So unanimity is very important for criminal convictions. It's required for constitutional due process. So Tyler Robinson's going to, they're going to have to get all 12 jurors to agree. And is there going to be one that's a bit of a conspirator, and that's why I think too, it's kind of a failure with respect to Joe Kent to leak this, because who's to say one of those jurors, you're not supposed to look up external evidence of the trial. Let's say they just look up Joe Kent and they're like, hey, this guy, he had a powerful position. He's got credibility and look what he's saying. It sounds like what the defense attorneys are saying. And sometimes, you never know how a person could be misled.
Gotcha. So let's say this. Let's say for this. Right now, today, the prosecution, I've heard as much as 9,000 pieces of files of evidence. That could be audio, text messages, a whole gamut. So they got a lot of evidence over here that they have. And let's just say, for example, Tyler Robinson today says, guess what, y'all? I'm guilty. I did it. He cops a plea. He says he did it. He's clear. He's in his right mind. All that kind of stuff. He does it, and they say, okay. They throw the book at him. He's off to sentencing. He's off to Alcatraz. He's going to jail. Do we ever get to see that evidence at the end? Will it ever show up?
Yeah,
It makes sense.
exactly.
Okay.
Actually, and so typically when you read the guilty plea, it states everything that the defendant is admitting that they did. And so, like one of the famous ones I read, you remember Michael Vick and the
Yeah.
dog, and so you
Man,
can actually, you can look up the criminal plea, and he pretty much lays out paragraph by paragraph what he was alleged to have done, and he admits that he did it. And that's one of the things you're required to do as a part of your guilty plea is to like state everything you did, and usually prosecutor is going to help you write that because they want to make sure you know you're guilty. Here's what you did. You're acknowledging guilt for it. And so that's a very important part of it. And you have to actually satisfy all the facts and the legal, the legal elements. So like prosecution can't just say like, oh, admit you're guilty without actually making you state each fact, which could have led to your, the sufficiency of the legal requirements to be found guilty.
I got it. Okay, so because I'm always wondering, like, if he cops a plea, which I think I do kind of think he'll cop sooner than later than go to trial. But the fates might be in their favor.
What do you think? Why do you think that?
Because he doesn't want to go to the death penalty. He just wants 25 years in prison without.
Do you also think the evidence is like he believes overwhelming?
I believe it's there. Yeah, I believe it's overwhelming. I mean, they found more. They found other people guilty with less than what we have here. So I do believe that he's guilty. I do believe he did it. I do believe that the prosecution can prove it. I think the defense is relying on woulda, shoulda, coulda. Maybe I can get somebody to doubt based upon all the shenanigans that are happening outside of the courtroom. If those shenanigans weren't happening, I think they would probably already just said, yeah, let's just go ahead and cop a plea. That's just my thought on it. I'm not a legal expert. Y'all know I'm a pre-K law student. So, but I was always wonder, like, would we be able to see, like, for example, we haven't seen any clear video evidence. But let's say prosecution has 4K, 1080p, very clear evidence of Tyler Robinson walking up the walkway to get on the top of the building. But we haven't seen that yet. Would we ever be able to see that?
I think we got the video of him at least running down after he did it up there, or allegedly did it.
But let's say for that, even that one, let's say there's a much clearer image. The prosecution has it. It's crystal clear. There's no way in the world you're going to doubt that that's him. Would we ever get those kind of images versus the very not 4K images that we've seen so far?
I mean, I don't really know with respect to like the access to certain pieces of evidence. What I do understand you would get is him admitting to all these facts, and that acts as evidence. Like when a person admits something, that's actually can be used as evidence against them. That's why when they read your Miranda rights, anything you say can and will be used against you in the court of law. You have the right to remain silent. They go through the list, exactly. But that's why they do it. Is because like if you admit after being read your Miranda rights, that statement can then be used against you to convict you.
Right.
And so, I mean, yeah. If he then makes a guilty plea and the prosecution says, "I'm not going to have you plead guilty. I'm not going to make this deal with you till you admit you did all this," and they're going to make sure that I have this rifle on this date. I went to that university campus. I went on top of the building. I mean, they're going to walk through it like it's a book or something. Like you're going to be like in a narrative.
That would actually be a book. Yeah.
Yeah. And he'll lay it all out. Now, some people may not believe it, or they're going to argue things, but it's like, look, as long as that narrative does kind of go with the evidence we have, which is like, it's probably going to say after I committed the acts, I fled the building and threw the rifle there, blah blah blah, all this stuff. Like that's gonna, have to be addressed as well, and it should reconcile with the evidence we've seen so far.
Yeah, I thought about that. I was wondering if he had a cell phone. Somebody just said, shout out to Greg. He had a cell phone at the event. It'd probably be geotagged. I would hope that he didn't have his phone because that would have been almost an easy. I mean, that's not even a layup. Like that would have just been too easy because what the heck was it 3 hours away? What the heck are you doing in Utah? I'm sorry, UVU. and his phone would have narked on him, that'd been some high level self snitching.
I didn't know it was that far away. Interesting.
Yeah, it was apparently a good little hike away. You weren't just there by accident. I know, again, from the YSL trial, there's a lot of discussion about geotagging and geo-tracking and knowing where a cell phone is. Within a block or two, they can kind of know where you are. That would be very much akin to me being in California and saying, well, you can't trust the evidence, my phone. No, Jason, you were in California. You were in California. Now, you might not be able to nail down exactly where we are here in a non-disclosed bunker, but you know, okay, we know you were where you were, Jason. Stop it. Because your phone narked up. My phone is narking on me right now.
That's how they get a lot of people.
I don't know about Lance Twiggs. Did Lance Twiggs get a deal in order to cooperate in testifying against Robinson? I don't know. You know?
Well, sometimes that is a part of, like, apparently of plea deals, is that you then cooperate with the prosecution in order to convict the other defendant, like the co-defendants. And so, however that's described, yeah, that's generally permissible. I mean, that's a strategy prosecutors use because it's effective.
And I agree.
And also, it's like game theory. Each criminal defendant wants to be not guilty, or they want to get the least, punishment possible. And it's like the one most willing to work with the authorities is likely to get that. So then it becomes which criminal defendant is going to be the one to work with, because, can you trust each other as co-defendants, or there is a lack of trust, then you're in the bad spot and they're in the good spot. So it's a little bit of a game theory aspect.
I agree 100%. And again, I don't know all the ins and outs with the cell phone, so I don't want to maybe he didn't bring his phone with him at all. I don't know that. So I was just going to say, if he did bring his phone, that was all. And the cell phone ping would tell you whether or not the phone was in that area. But again, if I live in Atlanta and my phone pings in Macon, Georgia, that's almost 3 hours from my house. There's a very good chance I was in Macon, Georgia. Now, you might not be able to know if I was at the Dunkin' Donuts or if I was at the Starbucks, but you know for a fact that I was in Macon.
The towers.
Right, because of the towers. And it can also ping your travel. So you can see, like, I left from North Cobb, traveled down this route because of the cell phone towers that I've been. Now I'm in Macon. Yeah, that one's going to be a slam dunk.
Yeah.
Your phone is going to snitch on you.
Apparently, they have some types of devices where you can put your phone in a sleeve and so it's not detectable. I think it's illegal actually to possess those and don't possess them.
Well, yeah. But yeah, or just turn your phone off. Put it in airplane mode. But most of us would use it. So again, back to the point, I think if they're using a cell phone data, he's gonna get that's gonna be hard to beat those charges. So what did I miss here? I don't know about Lance being Mirandized. I don't know about Lance Twiggs is
Who is Lance Twiggs?
Tyler Robinson's gay boyfriend.
Oh, but I don't think. He had been actually prosecuted at all. They're done. They don't have anything to do with this. It's all Tyler Robinson.
Right, but he's going to testify allegedly for the prosecution.
For sure. Oh yeah.
I'm sure he probably wasn't.
I don't think that has anything to necessarily do with alleged criminal involvement in trading a plea deal. I mean, some people may say that, but no, I think that's just more or less look, we're going to call you as a witness, and if you don't, she has an obligation to testify. And when you're called as a witness, you're going to have to answer the questions. And if you don't, you can be on contempt. So really, you don't have a choice. It's not like they're married or anything like that to prevent a spouse, from testifying. And that's not going to be an issue.
Yeah. CYSL Woody for that. It was from the YSL.
The only thing interesting too is if she was involved in a crime, you could always say up there on the stand, I plead the fifth. Then if you do that, you're gonna be in trouble with prosecution.
We don't want that to happen, right?
Exactly. So that you don't expect that at all. So I think it's completely, just something that's gonna happen.
Oh my gosh. Oh no, back to Candace. Would it be better for Erica to sue Candace for breach of contract by breaking the NDA, or was it already addressed? We didn't talk about an NDA. So I personally don't think that Turning Point USA to touch Candace ever again. I think Candace is nuclear. radioactive, like Chernobyl. Is he treated like Chernobyl? But what do you think?
Yeah, I think actually that's a great point. I think holding her liable under contract law is what you want to do, so long as those statements are actually tied to when she was tied into that contract. You can't hold her liable for statements that didn't apply to that contract, like after the contract expired. But if those statements, it was like a 1 year after she'd been terminated or something like that.
Don't quote me on this, but I think that contract was still good until 2027.
Oh, really?
If I'm not mistaken, it was good for a while.
For sake of argument, if we applied it that way, absolutely. All these negative, disparaging statements, I mean, there's going to be in that contract the contractual duty not, make disparaging statements of the company or any personnel within it. And obviously, Erica Kirk or the company could sue and say, here's the statements you made, and we think a jury is going to agree with us as to that fact that these statements are defamatory. And so I think, yeah, absolutely, breach of contract. For any statements made outside of the contract theory, that's when you have the defamation theory, just a pure personal injury tort.
So would it be easier? Let's say that I have a contract to work for you, so I'm under contract for the next 5 years to do projects with you, and so I got the NDA, and I can't break the contract with you, can't say bad things about Nick, but I'm also good for nothing, and I'm defaming you. Would it be easier for Nick Esquire to sue me as the company, or Nick Brooks, the individual, sue me in defamation?
Well, I can only enforce the contract. Like only the parties to the contract can enforce the contract.
Okay, so this is your contract with me.
Party, but here,
right? Your contract with me to do podcasting, and I'm under the NDA for that. But I break it. I do something. I'm breaking the contract wholesale, but I'm still under it. Would it be easier for you to sue me?
Just to clear, yeah, because one thing I have to address is like, let's say this contract you're talking about, is it Nick Brooks Incorporated or is it Nick Brooks, an individual, with Jason Whitaker?
Incorporated. So I work for your company.
Okay, so the Nick Brooks Incorporated. So we're dealing with a company. As an individual, I'm not actually on there, right?
Right, but then I'm also defaming you over here, saying that saying some specific things. I thought Nick, do a drive-by gerbil throwing, and
for sure
he doesn't tip the waitress.
Terrible at his job when I worked with him.
He doesn't tip anybody at Starbucks, that kind of stuff. And he eats everything bagels. Anybody that eats everything bagel is a criminal. That's a truism. Mark my word. Anybody that puts in stuff, everything bagel, that seasoning, you are a criminal and you deserve
due process.
You got no due process. You're straight to jail.
You're on notice of the law.
I think that's crazy. Okay, so which one? I'm defaming you and I've broken my contract. Which one is easier, you think?
So, like in this situation, since the company signed the contract with you, not me in my individual capacity, but my company, likely my contract is going to state something to the effect of you cannot make any disparaging statements related to the company or personnel within it. There's going to be some hook that's going to include me, that if you start insulting me as an individual, especially in my professional capacity, well, then I can argue that's disparaging and actually violates the contract. I mean, I would just, with the company is standing to sue under that contract theory. And you would sue, it's always better to sue under contract in a situation like that before defamation. Like if you had a breach of contract, let's say a person makes a false statement of fact and it's reputationally harmful, you're a criminal and here you did X, Y, and Z on this date, all the specific facts are satisfied. And it's like, okay, well, I can either choose between a contract theory or a personal injury tort theory, defamation. You cannot recover under both. You have to either pick one. So you can't I'm going to recover under contract and under personal injury. No, at the end, you do have to pick contract or tort, but it's easier to recover under contract generally than the personal injury tort.
I got you. So if I sue first and win, will that help me? Because somebody literally just said that defamation is hard to prove. It's been hard to prove defamation, but doesn't Erica have proof of the case against Candace? It just seems Candace can say whatever without consequences. So if you have this example, or this has been settled where you broke the contract, such of that nature. Would that strengthen the defamation? You feel it would help it out more?
Can you say, how did you establish the facts prior?
So I broke my contract with you, whatever the clauses are in the contract. So the contract with your company, your business. So I broke the contract, and you sue me because of that, and you win. But I also defamed you as an individual. I was saying horrible things about you, terrible things that are definitely defamation. With the fact that you sued me, and because I broke the contract, but it strengthened your case of defamation against me.
So is this all using the same allegedly defamatory statement?
Yeah, let's say
Let's say on January 1st, you made one exact statement that is defamatory. There's no question, right?
Correct.
Okay, you successfully recovered under contract theory for that statement, right?
Correct.
Okay, and now you think, aha, well, because I recovered under contract, now I want to sue under personal injury theory as well. So
but what if I did more than just one time? I did January 1st, January 2nd, 3 times on January 3rd.
You only bring one case for your violation, right?
Right, but I was showing like there's a pattern. It wasn't just a one-off, but I was really going hard in the paint.
I think it would all be like joined to that case. Like it would be like, all these statements you made January 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, all that up. But like we would just link that to one case, and it's all case one. And so and again, this all goes back to all these statements, then you recover in contract. But like I said, if it's only like a statement or a series of statements, that's when you have to pick. Do you want to recover under contract theory, or do you want to recover under defamation? You can't double recover. You can't try to be like, well, I'm going to recover under contract and then for those exact same statements, then under defamation. Generally, selection of remedies types of stuff.
Okay. Okay. So I would need to decide which one would be better, which would be more.
Yeah, or election of theories.
Election of theories. God, thank you so much for the 10, Gingrich. I'm sorry. Says this. 1, is Candace still under contract, under the TPUSA NDA until December 26th? I think they fired her. Don't quote me on that. I don't think so. So that's a good question. But I don't think she is. And if so, would it be better for Erica to sue Candace for breach of contract instead of defamation? I think she's breached contract and has defamed Erica as an individual. But I think to the point that you made in the last segment, decide which one.
Sue for both.
Sue for both.
You can proceed using alternative theories. It's just at the end, you're going to have to pick. You want to recover under contract, or do you want to recover under court? And so that's, calls of action 1, breach of contract. Calls of action 2, defamation. Go. I would just let them go. And you can, if she wants to file some motion to dismiss early to try to get one theory away, I'd say, I'd say we can continue both theories just fine. They're alternative. You can plead alternative facts, and what that really means is you could say the light was green, the light was red in the very next paragraph, and both are valid, and you plead both of them. So you can do that when you're pleading and be strategic. Yeah. Okay. And that's always very important for lawyers, and some lawyers actually overlook that ability to plead alternatively.
Okay. I'll listen to Nick. You're a lawyer. Okay, so she still is up to December 2026. Okay. And we are in 2026. Okay, shut up. Well, she definitely doesn't care. So.
If she's making these statements and she's still under contract, if there has to be some type of maybe practical reason that Erica Kirk hasn't brought the case. But I do think that she should probably act and do something, especially if it's really causing a lot of issues. But I will say this, Candace Owens is kind of digging her own grave in a way. She's really getting on the wrong side of a lot of people. Now she's on the wrong side of the president. And it's good luck. Your entire audience is built on support for him. You ain't going to survive this, I really think she has an existential type problem, with her own audience. And so we'll see how that kind of plays out. But she better get in good graces with Eric Kirk, Trump, all of them real quick. Right. Because if she doesn't, she's going to have some real problems.
I don't think so. I agree with you. What's that word I was supposed to use?
Preclusive.
Preclusive.
Yes.
I have no idea how to use it though.
It's
how to use it now.
It's to prohibit or to preclude another from using a certain thing. So let's say if in case A, in case A, certain facts were found And then like there was a later another case, and we could use those facts from case A and case B for preclusive effects. We could just say like, no, this has already been established. Case A, this occurred, the light was green, that person was ran over, and so you're just grabbing fact A, fact B, fact C, and you're just lumping them into case B. And any case that, or any other fact that tries to contradict those, it's like, no, these facts have preclusive effect on those facts. I mean, that's a good way to use it, I would say.
I like that. I'm probably not going to use that. You made it sound too. You made it sound
academic, doctrinal.
Too serious for me. Would they be able to sue? Would it be then be fair to sue under TPUSA because she has said things about multiple people in the organization rather than under Erica and limits the scope of evidence?
Yes, and so I believe, just as we discussed Nick Brooks and Jason Whitaker, if Candace Owens, her contract is with TPUSA, I would presume.
Right.
So TPUSA would have those rights to bring the contract. Who leads TPUSA? Erica Kirk. Erica Kirk's the CEO or whatever her designated leadership title is, but she's the top executive within TPUSA. So she's the one that has like the right to bring a lawsuit on behalf of TPUSA. So with that being said, if Candace Owens is insulting TPUSA, insulting Erica Kirk, I mean, Erica Kirk does have an ability to recover in her own individual capacity.
Facts.
But for the breach of contract theory, that's going to be, TPUSA v. Candace Owens. Defamation would more look like Erica Kirk v. Owens.
Got it. So in that event, somebody just asked here, is there a way to get discovery on Candace and Joe Kent to see if they were in a cover-up, trying to cover up Tyler Robinson or even Trantifa, possibly?
No, I love that question. That's a really good question. Absolutely. If I were, the attorneys for Macron, I would say, hey, give me all of your communications with Joe Kent from 2020 to 2026, through the current date or something like that. I would be able to, she was probably going to object and say, I don't have a reason to that, right to that evidence for whatever reason. If she wants to maintain those objections and doesn't want to provide it, bring a motion to compel the, discovery responses and get those documents. Because then if I win that, the judge is going to order you to produce those documents or produce those communications, respond to the question. And also, if I win that type of discovery motion, I then get attorney's fees for it. So for her to oppose it, it's like, hey, you're going to be paying me to get access to that information, because we can definitely say that there is some relevance, or we could argue that there's some type of relevance to the case where we want access between Joe Kent and Candace Owens, especially with like conspiracy style thinking.
No question. So I'm thinking, you have me thinking, I don't think that Eric Kirk should sue Candace Owens. I don't.
In her personal capacity or on behalf of TPUSA?
In her personal capacity. I think she should just be TPUSA and just let that run roughshod over. Just simply because I think that's what Candace wants. She wants to drag in all this other, I want to see the phone. I want to see the WhatsApp and all that kind of stuff like that. Drag all that stuff in for no reason or whatever. And as I keep telling people, you do realize that all the piece of information that Candace showed about the Macrones was the information that they gave her in order to get her to stop this thing before. And she used that against them. That's what she's been showing. So I'm like, I don't want her to drag this family out there anymore. If she violated the contract with TPUSA and they can get remedy and really just ruin her day with it, I think that'd probably be the best, in my opinion.
I agree with that analysis. I think the only issue is like, you could be like waiving, something you could bring, and like, I mean, Erica Kirk, if she wants to,
No.
I mean, she got enough money probably that she's not too worried about it, but like, I don't know. I mean, investigate if it's worth it, and then if I guess it's ultimately up to her to make that decision. But yeah,
if she didn't, let me say it like this: if she didn't, I wouldn't be mad. That's what I'm gonna say. If she doesn't sue Candace, because I do think Candace definitely violated a lot of different principles in my regard, in my understanding. But if she says, you know what, I just want peace in my family, we're gonna move on and let TPUSA sue her, or whatnot, I'm fine with that. Or the McCrones might totally bankrupt her, and she's like, you know what? Shout out to the McCrones. And eat a bagel and a croissant in honor of the Macron, and just keep it moving. So
Yeah.
I believe Erica was not on the contract. That's why she started going after Erica exclusively.
Wait, what did that say?
I believe Erica was not on the contract. That's true.
Oh yeah, but
You're
the
right.
issue is, and that's a great point, but the problem is the contract likely includes, you can't disparage TPUSA nor its personnel, and so it's going to hook. Like if you're insulting Erica Kirk in her professional capacity, she doesn't run that organization right. Like you can direct that at Erica Kirk and say Erica Kirk is not running the organization correctly, but that is still a disparagement towards TPUSA.
Correct.
Because TPUSA is publicly being alleged not to be run correctly. And ultimately, so while she can point the finger at Erica, Erica's the leader and she's doing it in a way that disparages her professional capacity to lead the organization. I mean, too, like I think Candace Owens has made a bunch of points that, like, she shouldn't even be leading the organization for X, Y, and Z reasons. Which I don't know. I mean, to me, that's all disparaging conduct that would seemingly violate that type of agreement.
No, I agree with that. Good point. All right, good souls. We are. There's some good conversations in here. She was a director back then. I think to the point, it really doesn't matter. I don't remember what Erica's role was while Charlie was alive. She might have been on the personnel. She might have been a staff person, but Tyler Boyer, Blake Neff, there are tons of other people that have always been Mike McCoy that have been employed with TPUSA that she has drugged through the mud. So it's not just Erica. It's countless. There's at least 5 I can think of off the top of my head.
What I want to see, and I think this might be an issue. I think if Erica Kirk does sue Candace, she's going to want access to certain communications.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things maybe that's going through Erica Kirk's mind, if I was trying to just speculate, is maybe she, by asking for certain communications, she could harm her relationships with others. Because, for example, I don't know the extent that Erica Kirk has a relationship with Tucker Carlson, but if there's a good relationship there, professionally, and if she's seeking, communications between Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, or Candace Owens and Joe Kent. I think Joe Kent was friends with Charlie Kirk, who's was married to Erica. So I just think there's going to be a lot of other people implicated. Erica's like, look, Candace, don't make me do this, and if I do, it's going to have to implicate this entire ecosystem that you guys are all in communication. Almost in a way, maybe she could say, telling each other or playing off each other on what to say. Maybe even call those people as witnesses, depose them. I think that would be reasonable. So, Tucker Carlson could be deposed for a case like Joe Kent could be deposed for a case like this.
A lot of people. Let's see. I saw a comment. What about the employees that leaked Zoom calls when she was doing team meetings? Eric was leading those. Those things have gotten leaked to Candace. Do you think what would happen? Who could get in trouble for that? Let me say it like that.
Yeah, so there's a couple ways to get in trouble. You're not allowed to report people without their consent. So depending on the state you're in, and in California you need dual party consent. So sometimes people have one side. So I could already see there being you recorded me without my consent, and that's a violation of this criminal statute and the civil statute. And then not only just dealing with those independent criminal and civil statutes, I would argue that it's also a breach of contract. It's likely that employee has stated in their contract or employment understanding the duty not to disclose confidential, proprietary information.
Right.
And that would include, meetings where
Zoom call.
Exactly, where it's all business related, and so you have a duty of confidentiality and a fiduciary duty to the company. And so if you're leaking that, you're actually violating your duty to the company. It's obviously a fireable offense. That's for good cause.
No, I agree 100%. Tucker apparently raised money to support Erica. I didn't know that.
See, and that's going to be an issue because, imagine if Tucker Carlson's like, hey, I helped you raise money. Now you're asking for my communication with Candace. He might feel a little jilted by, some type of legal act like that, or you want to depose me, I could see Chuck across and not liking that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So, okay. No, that's a good point. Thank you so much. I hate that Candace says that she's just going to the audience and ask for money. She did say that. So, yeah, that's what she said. She said, I'll just go to the audience and ask them for the money for the lawsuit.
Hey,
I'm finding a link. I'm about to find it.
she can do that, but all the people paying her, I guess like they want to throw their money away. Go ahead.
Right.
So she's asking for it.
And will have no issue paying for damages. She said, she said she wants the discovery, saying for TPUSA. As we get ready to round these bases, because I don't want to be too long. Discovery, and we talked about this on another show you came on before. Discovery is not some carte blanche that you can just get anything and everything, ask any question about anything about the person that you're suing or being sued by. It has to be very important and very focused. You can't just say, I want everything, I want to know everything about your car, Nick. I want to see what's in the trunk and the glove box, armrest, all that kind of stuff. No, like it needs to be very specific. And you can't just do that. Candace makes it sound like she can just get anything and everything. You can get your HOA fees and find out how much your dog groomer is. And that's not the case. Am I right?
Exactly. I mean, a lot of people with no experience in litigation talk a big game like that, or I'll see you in court type of language. Like they think they're big and bad. They beat their chest, but it's like ultimately, like they don't understand the limitations. So it's like trying to communicate with somebody that just has no comprehension of how the game works and how do you explain the rules. They don't care. That's kind of how I see Owens kind of beating her chest with some of the things she said.
Yeah, because discovery doesn't mean everything. Like the way she makes it sound, she's going to get this again. She clearly doesn't know how this works, but I do think she does because there are cases. And there was one time when she was going to be sued by Cardi B. I'm sorry, she threatened to sue Cardi B, and I realized that she never did do it. And I think it's because she realized that the discovery that Cardi B was going to ask of her was probably more damaging than what she really wanted it to be, so she never did.
Yeah, weigh those options for sure.
So, because the discovery that Cardi was probably going to ask was direct in line with the case, why she was going to sue her, and she knew that it was going to come out bad on her end.
Exactly. I mean, the discovery generally has to be sufficiently related to the claims or defenses. That's generally the scope of discovery.
That's what Heather Rose just said. The discoverable evidence must be. See, you get your pre-K law school postcard today. Heather, I love it. All right, good people. I want to say thanks, man. Nick, this was fun, man. This is good. We'll do this again. We'll have to do this again. But I just wanted to have an opportunity to chat with you in studio. All that kind of good chat. Shout out to our studio. Make sure I leave the link down in the description. But anything you want to say before, anything new going on your channel? If the mods could please make sure we drop Nick's channel in the chat. But anything going on new with you? I know you like writing discovery, so
yeah. No, I say this. Hey, thanks for coming out to San Diego and contact me. I'm glad we can get set up and have a good podcast to do together. Definitely a special episode, I would say, for some of the viewers who like the content. And with respect to like where I see my page going, I mean, I want to get more back into it over this year, especially over the next 6 months. For the last 2 months, I really haven't posted much of anything. And it's only because, like, really I wanted to get some more billable hours, do some more marketing for my own, like, firm. I'm self-employed, so I own my own practice. And it's dedicated a lot of my time, But, YouTube's a great outlet. It's a good way to communicate with people. I'm going to try to maybe get more involved, like, in, like, maybe a more limited capacity, not like daily content, just because I don't always think there's the demand there for daily content. I mean, I guess maybe, but certain lawyers, I swear, when I watch their pages, they're just like, that's half conspiratorial with the rest of them. You know what I mean? And I'm not really into all that. Like, I'd rather just be doing some work or something or in another context. But, yeah, that's kind of where I see my page going in the next year. Is just kind of get more back into it in a limited sense, given my views on different legal issues that come up. Maybe at like the federal executive level or something like that. And just seeing kind of what people like, the traction, the view count that kind of comes with it, because I try to use YouTube as a way to just like meet the demand that people want to hear. It's kind of why I started talking about Candace Owens anyway, just because, I made a video about Remember when the Venezuela invasion? I did an international law video, and I was like, oh man, this is going to be great. Only had like 700, 800 views maybe after that video was posted for like a couple days. Versus I'll get a Candace Owens video. I have 700, 800 views in the first couple of minutes, and I'm like, oh wow, like you guys really like that type of commentary and legal analysis, and not a lot of lawyers do it.
So, and I would only admonish you, maybe look at, okay, maybe you can do an update. If this if this case does go to trial or whatnot, maybe do an update and just give it some perspective, especially when people realize that, as you said before, we don't know what we're talking about, like in discovery or whatnot like that. Why are they filing these motions? Another one, why does it take so long? Oh my gosh. Let me see. April 23rd or whatever is like when he's going to come back. This case the motion was filed back in February. Why does it take 8 weeks to read a motion and decide? Those kind of things like that would help out just for the layman, especially the armchair legal defense team that's sitting back is kind of watching. We don't understand why it takes so long. So that might be your little shtick to help us understand.
For sure. And I mean, I'll definitely try to discuss like what happens with motion to dismiss. Like, I'm sure we'll get our hands on the order and be able to see what the judge thought about each side's moving documents. Like I said, I would estimate that, that should be like 80% denied. We'll go with that.
So, okay. So could it could be all denied, 100%.
I'm saying it's going to be, there's an 80% likelihood the motion gets denied in full.
Okay, there we go. Okay. So it's either all or nothing. It's not a partial denial.
Yeah, in a situation like this, yeah, because I mean, basically, if one of her grounds sticks, it's dismissed. So it's she's thrown 3 grounds up there on the wall to see which one sticks, and I don't think any of them stick.
Got it. Okay. So it's going to be it's going to be 3. It's going to be 0 and 3 or 3 and 0. That's it. Okay.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay.
And that's what I was saying. She should have thrown up a 4th ground, but she didn't. Her lawyers didn't. I was kind of wondering why.
See, y'all should tap in with Nick, Candace. So you would have, because you already explained what you would have argued, how you would have approached it differently. You feel like that was a flaw in their end.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't bring. You have a right to bring early in the case that, assuming all of these allegations are true, it does not qualify defamation. Then you would just I would cite, hey, there's a lack of any case law evidence that's, perfectly analogous. They might bring up the Richard Simmons case as persuasive, but I'd say, hey, that's a persuasive case. It shouldn't apply here. You should look at it this way. But ultimately, too, it might not be subject to dismissal if it's like a question of facts. Maybe they're going to want to send that to the jury. Maybe the jury can decide, was this a sustained campaign that brought reputational loss?
I love it. Well, Nick, somebody said thank you for answering her question. You've been curious for so long.
No, you're welcome.
No, that was good. Thank you, Nick. I am going to okay, so we will we'll just tell you right now, the dismissal comes out, go ahead and block out some time. Don't send me the voicemail when I call you. We're going to jump on and talk about it. So do your reading. You're 3 hours behind me. So you should be well rested. Unlike your guy who was about to pass out. Okay. Yeah. I still haven't figured out this time thing. I am so jet lagged. It doesn't make any sense. But so we will have you back to talk about that for sure and see where you are on the case.
Yeah, wonderful. No, thanks for having me again, there, bud.
Hey, no problem. Y'all, thank y'all so much, everybody, for tapping in with us today. This has been a fun one. This is something new. I don't think I've ever had any. No, I have had others in Atlanta, but this is my first time ever going out. But this won't be my last time. When did you come to Atlanta?
Beautiful San Diego.
All right. Wait. Did you ever go over recently filed case? If not, would you please open the orders?
I think she's talking about these pro hoc vice orders that were recently on the case. Basically, a pro hoc vice is just like an attorney that's outside of the state associating with the counsel inside of the state in order to practice there temporarily. I think that's what these recent orders were, and all the judge said was, yeah, I'll allow this attorney that's outside of the state of Delaware to come in and temporarily associate with this in-state counsel to represent Candace Owens. I think that's all that occurred, but I didn't check anymore.
Okay. We'll look into it. Oh, she said yes. Love it. Thank you so much, Sam. That's actually how her attorney got connected with the 920 North King Street building, because that's where he's working because he's from Nashville. He's working with that law firm, which is in the 920 building.
Interesting. Okay, makes sense.
That's how she ended up getting swooped in with the 920 building. That could be for another discussion. I think we're good with Joe Kent wanting to test. I don't think, did Joe Kent actually say he did, or he said he would? Like he did want to, or he said if they reached out to me, I would. I don't remember.
Oh man, he said that. That is such a bad comment. That is so uninformed. Like Joe Kent embraced all kinds of radical kind of conspiratorial thinking in some sense. It's like you're already being investigated for like alleged leaks months before you lost your job. Like, just give it a break. Like he clearly has an attention problem. I mean, you had a position with the president, you quit, and you ran to a public podcast to try to like get your own name out there. We wouldn't know the guy if it wasn't for him publicly quitting like that and trashing everybody.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good point. All right, we're going to get out of here, people. Thank you so much. It's been a lot of fun. I appreciate y'all. Please do me a favor. Make sure you hit the like button. If the mods can just double check that we drop Nick's contact information down in the description. Y'all go over and check out what Nick Brooks is doing over there. Nick Jason Brooks is doing over there. Make sure you like what he's doing. All that kind of stuff. Hype the video, like the video, comment, all that good jazz, y'all. We will see you all real soon. So until then, grace and peace. Take care. Now I'm going to do something. I got to jump. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Jay Witt Podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, please do me a favor and hit me up with that 3-piece special. Like the video, subscribe, and of course, share it with somebody who would also enjoy this type of content. And make sure you leave a comment because I do pin the best comments to the top. So thank you so much for tuning in today. And until next time, everybody, grace and peace.